Check this out, BC Ritter here, bringing you another Commander deck tech, and today we have Maha, it's Feathers Knight. We're a mono black control build, so we're going to do everything in our power to control the game in every aspect, whether it be drawing cards, which we're primarily going to use our life total to do so, but Maha itself is going to do a very good job at controlling all our opponent's creatures, because their base toughness is going to be 1. So that means they're going to be easily killed off. He's also a 6/5 with flying and trample, so he's already a very large creature, but he also has ward. So our opponents have to discard a card in order to target Maha. So let's get right into this. First up are all the creatures. All these creatures are going to benefit us in every possible way. So we have Dread Presence. Anytime a swamp enters the battlefield under our control, we can choose to draw a card and lose a life, or we can deal 2 damage to any target and we gain 2 life. So if we have Maha out, 2 damage will kill off your opponent's creatures very easily, and the 2 life we're going to use in many different ways. Now we have Phyrexian Crusader. This is first strike and protection from red and white. So if our opponents are in those colors, they can't really deal with this guy. He also has Infect. So when he deals combat damage to a player, they're going to get poison counters. And if it's damage dealt to a creature, it's dealt in the form of -1 counters. And because of Maha, their base toughness is 1. So it's going to kill that creature almost immediately. Now we have Liliana, Heretical Healer. This is a 2/3 with lifelink with a static effect. Whenever any non-token creature we control is put into a graveyard, we get to exile Liliana transformed. If we did, we get a 2/2 black zombie. And she will transform into Liliana, Defiant Necromancer. She'll enter with 3 loyalty counters on her. We can +2 her. Each player will discard a card. -X, we get to return any non-legendary creature from our graveyard back to the battlefield with converted mana cost X, where X is the amount of loyalty counters you remove from Liliana. And -8, we get an emblem. Whenever any creature is put into a graveyard, we get to return it back under our control. Now we have Kervik the Spiteful. Other creatures will get -1/-1. If we have Maha out, all our opponent's creatures are going to enter and pretty much immediately die if Kervik is out as well. Now we have my personal favorite with Yawgmoth, Threatened Physician. This is a messed up magic card. Being a 2/4 with protection from humans is just the tip of the iceberg with this card. You can pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature to put a -1 counter on any target creature just to draw a card. Or you can pay 2 black, discard a card, and proliferate. Now we have Cryptghast. This has Extort, so anytime you cast a spell, you can pay a additional black mana. When you cast that spell, each opponent will lose 1 life, and then you gain that much life. Anytime we tap a swamp for mana, it's going to add a additional black mana. Now we have Sir Conrad the Grim. He has a really good static effect. Whenever any creature dies, or if it's a creature card put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, it'll deal 1 damage to each opponent. And if we need to, we can pay a colorless and a black, and each player will put the top card into their graveyard. Now we have Sidisi Undead Vizier. This is a 4/6 with Death Touch, but has Exploit. When it enters, you can sacrifice a creature, and if you exploited, you get to Demonic Tutor. You get to search your library for any card and put it into your hand. Now we have good old Gary. Because most of our permanents are going to have a lot of black mana symbols, this is what's called Devotion. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent will lose X life, and you're going to gain X life, where X is your devotion to black. Now we have Machias the Unhallowed. This is a 5/5 with Intimidate, so just him alone, he can only be blocked by creatures that share a color with them. And whenever any human deals damage to you, you destroy that creature. But other non-human creatures you control will have +1/+1 and have Undying. So when that creature dies, if it had no +1 counters on it, you get to return that creature back to the battlefield with a +1 counter on it. Now we have Grave Titan. This is a 6/6 with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, we get to create two 2/2 black zombies. Now we have Harvester of Souls. This is a 5/5 with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature is put into a graveyard, we get to draw a card. And because we're going to be killing our opponent's creatures very easily, we're going to be drawing lots of cards. Now we have another personal favorite of mine with Massacre Worm. When it enters the battlefield, each creature your opponents control will get -2/-2. Generally, -2 is going to be good enough to kill them, but if we have Maha out, it's going to make it very easy. And then, anytime a creature a opponent controls is put into a graveyard, that player will lose 2 life. Now we have Ascendant of Venkar. This is a 3/3 with flying. He's kind of like a Lord effect. Other black creatures will get +1/+1, but if it's not a black creature, it'll get -1/-1. Now we have Sepulchral Primordial. This is a 5/4 with Intimidate as well. So he's already really hard to block unless it shares that color. But when he enters the battlefield, for every single opponent, you get to choose a target creature from that player's graveyard and put it into play under your control. Now we have some non-black creatures. Of course, we have Solemn Simulacrum or Sad Robot. When he enters the battlefield, you get to search for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and if he's put into a graveyard, you get to draw a card. Now we have some creatures that are going to stick around for a while to ensure that our opponents never have any creatures. So we have Triskelion. When he enters the battlefield, he'll enter with 3 +1 counters on it, and you can remove a +1 counter to deal 1 damage to any target. Similar to that, we have Walking Ballista. This does cost double X, so if we have a lot of mana, we can put as many +1 counters on it when you cast it. That way he'll enter with a lot of +1 counters, and he'll synergize well with Yawgmoth because you can discard cards to proliferate all these counters, or you can pay 4 colorless just to put a +1 counter on it. But similar to Triskelion, you can remove a +1 counter to deal 1 damage to any target. Since we are a mono black control build, and Maha will ultimately control all the creatures, we need to look at this from another angle. So we're going to have a lot of planeswalkers that are really going to help us out and really take over the game alongside Maha. So, of course, we have the iconic Liliana of the Veil. She's going to enter the battlefield with 3 loyalty counters on her. You get to +1 her. Each player will discard a card. So our opponents aren't going to have that many cards in their hand anyway. Or -2, you can target a player to sacrifice a creature. And -6, you get to separate all permanents a player controls into 2 piles. They choose 1 pile and sacrifice the other. Now we have Liliana of the Last Hope. She'll enter with 3 loyalty counters on her. Get the +1 her. Another target creature will get -2/-1. So when Maha's out, you get to kill off a creature. -2, you get to mill 2 cards and then put any creature back to your hand. -7, you get an emblem where every single end step, you get to put X 2/2 zombies on the battlefield under your control, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. This is going to synergize really well with Grave Titan because the more zombies you have, Liliana, the Last Hope, will give you even more zombie tokens. Now we have Liliana of the Dark Realms. She's going to enter with 3 loyalty counters on her. You get to +1 her, search your library for any swamp card, put it into your hand. Or -3, target creature will get your choice of either +X or -X, where X is the number of swamps you control. So if there's a very large creature that Maha didn't kill, you can use Liliana of the Dark Realms to kill that creature, or make one of your creatures very large. Or -6, you get an emblem where every single swamp will tap for 4 black mana. Now we have Liliana, Waker of the Dead. She's going to enter with 4 loyalty counters on her. You get to +1 her. Each player will discard a card, and then each opponent that can't discard is going to lose 3 life. And then -3, target creature will get -X/-X, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And -7, you get an emblem where every single beginning of combat, you get to put any creature from any graveyard into play under your control. Now we have the original Liliana Vest. She'll enter with 5 loyalty counters on her. You get the +1 her. Target player will discard a card. -2, you get to search for any card you want and put it on top of your library. This is what Vampiric Tutor is. Then -8, you get to put every single creature from every graveyard into play under your control. Now we have good old Professor Onyx. This is Liliana as well when she ventured down to Strixhaven. She has a static ability called Magecraft. So anytime you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, each opponent will lose 2 life and we gain 2 life. This is going to be very important later on, and I'll get to that in just a moment. She'll enter with 5 loyalty counters on her. You get to +1 her. You lose 1 life. Then you look at the top 3 cards of your library and put one of them in your hand and the other in the graveyard. Or -3, each opponent will sacrifice a creature with the greatest power of those creatures they control. And -8, each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life, and they repeat this process 6 more times. Now we have probably the most powerful Liliana right now, with Liliana Dreadhorde General. She has a static effect. Anytime a creature would be put into a graveyard, we get to draw a card. She'll enter with 6 loyalty counters on her. You can +1 her to make a 2/2 black zombie. Or -4, each player will sacrifice 2 creatures. This is Barter in Blood. And -9, each opponent will choose a permanent they control of each permanent type, and they have to sacrifice the rest. Now we have Liliana Death Wielder. She'll enter with 5 loyalty counters on her. You can +2 her, put a -1 counter on any creature. Or -3, you get to destroy any creature that has a -1 counter on it. And then -10, we get to return all creatures from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Now we have Ob Nixilis of the Black Oath. He'll enter with 3 loyalty counters on him. You get to +2 him. Each opponent will lose 1 life, and we gain life equal to all the life that was lost this way. Or -2, you get to put a 5/5 black demon on the battlefield with flying, and we lose 2 life. 2 life isn't going to be that much just to have a 5/5 demon that our opponents probably can't deal with anyway. And then -8, you get an emblem where you can pay a colorless and a black, sacrifice any creature, we gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. Now we have Ob Nixilis Reignited. He'll enter with 5 loyalty counters on him. You get to +1 him, draw a card and lose a life. -3, destroy any creature you want. Or -8, target opponent gets an emblem whenever a player draws a card. Doesn't matter who draws the card. They'll lose 2 life. Now we have Lolth, Spider Queen. She'll enter with 4 loyalty counters on her. With a static effect, whenever any creature we control dies or is put into a graveyard, we get to put a loyalty counter on Lolth. You can 0 to draw a card and lose a life. And -3, we get to create 2 2/1 black spiders with menace and reach. So each one of these spiders can block flyers and takes 2 creatures just to block it. And -8, you get an emblem whenever any opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures we control. If that player lost 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. Now we have Vraska, Betrayal Sting. She costs 6 mana, but she does have Phyrexian mana in her cost. So you can pay 2 life rather than pay the black. So for 5 mana and 2 life, you can cast her. She'll enter with 6 loyalty counters on her. You can 0 her. You get to draw a card, lose a life, and then proliferate. Proliferate is going to be really good, especially when we have many different ways of putting minus counters on things. And then -2, you get to target a creature, and that creature will become a treasure token. And then -9, you get to target a player. If that player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So it's not going to be hard just to proliferate one time and take one opponent out of the game very quickly. Now we have the original Sorin Markov. He'll enter with 4 loyalty counters on him. You get to +2 him, deal 2 damage to any target, and gain 2 life. This is going to be very good with Maha. Or -3, targeted opponent's life total will become 10. Then -7, You get to gain control of that player's next turn. He's kind of like a mind slaver. Now we have Karn Liberated. He's only here just to be a very large, powerful planeswalker. He'll enter with 6 loyalty counters on him. You can +4 him to exile a card from target player's hand, or -3, you can exile any permanent. We're going to use him to basically deal with things that Maha can't. And then -14, you get to restart the game with everything you exiled with Karn. Okay, let's get into the instance. There's only 3. So we have the iconic Dark Ritual, 1 black mana. We get to add 3 black mana. We have Suffocating Fumes. All creatures your opponents control will get -1/-1. And if we don't need this, we can just cycle it. We can pay 2, discard it to draw a card. Now we have Hero's Downfall. Planeswalkers are going to be a little bit tougher for us to deal with. So we're going to use Hero's Downfall to destroy target creature or planeswalker. Okay, let's get into the sorceries. First up, we have Chain of Smog. This is only going to be used for an infinite combo with Professor Onyx. Target player will discard 2 cards, and then that player can copy it and choose new copies. We're going to target ourselves, so we're going to infinitely target ourselves to discard our hand. With Professor Onyx's static ability, anytime we copy a instant or sorcery, each opponent will lose 2 life and we gain 2 life. Of course, we have Mnemonic Tutor. We get to search our library for any card and put it into our hand. Now we have a modal spell. We have Insatiable Avarice. This has Spree, so we can choose different modes if we pay its additional costs. So for 1 black and 2 colors, we get to search our library for any card and put that card on top, or pay 1 black and 2 more black. Target player will draw 3 cards and lose 3. Now we have Sign in Blood. Target player will draw 2 and lose 2. Now we have Read the Bones. We get to scry 2, then draw 2, then lose 2. Now we have Gruesome Realization. This is a modal spell as well. We can choose to draw 2 and lose 2, or creatures your opponent's control will get -1/-1. Of course, we have Diabolic Tutor. We get to search our library for any card and put that into our hand. Now we have some removal. So we have Feed the Swarm. We can destroy target creature or enchantment, and we're going to lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. This is a good way to deal with enchantments, because in mono black, there's not very many ways to deal with enchantments. Now we have Damnation, which is probably the best mass removal in black right now. Now we have Black Sun Zenith. For 2 black and X, X is however much mana we pay into it. We're going to put that many -1 counters, and Black Sun Zenith will shuffle back in. So we can keep casting this over and over. Now we have Profane Command. This is another X spell as well. We can choose to have target player lose X life, or return target creature with converted mana cost X or less from our graveyard back to the battlefield, or target creature will get -X/-X, or up to 1 target creature will gain Fear. Fear just means they can't be blocked except by artifact or black creatures. Now we have some sorceries that are going to affect our opponent's life total specifically. So we have Drain Life for a colorless and a black, and then any additional black mana we spend, we can deal 1 damage to any target, and we gain 1 life. Now we have Corrupt. It'll deal damage equal to the number of swamps you control, and you'll gain that much life. Now we have Consume Spirit. For a colorless, a black, and then X, however much black mana we spend on X, will deal X damage to any target, and we gain X life. Now we have my personal favorite, with Torment of Hailfire. For 2 black and X, however much mana we pay into it, our opponents are going to repeat the following process X times. They can choose to lose 3 life, sacrifice a non-land permanent, or discard a card. Now we have Exsanguinate. For 2 black and X, each opponent will lose X life, and we gain life equal to the total that was lost that way. Okay, let's get into the enchantments. There's only 3, but all these are going to really help us out by drawing cards. So, of course, we have Necropotence. This was a very confusing card at first, but basically you skip your draw phase and you can pay life to exile cards from the top of your library, and every single end step you put the exile cards into your hand. Of course, we have Phyrexian Arena. Every single upkeep you lose a life and draw a additional card. Now we have Knight of Souls Betrayal. All creatures will get -1/-1. This is going to synergize very well with Maha. That way our opponents will never have creatures. Okay, let's get into the artifacts. Most of these are mana rocks, but we will have other effects as well. Of course, we have Soul Ring. We have Mind Stone. This will add a colorless mana, or we can pay 1 to sacrifice it to draw a card. Now we have Gilded Lotus. This will tap for 3 mana of 1 color. Now we have Jet Medallion. This is going to help us reduce the cost of all our black spells by 1 colorless. Now we have my personal favorite with the Elixir of Immortality. You're going to pay 2, gain 5 life, and then shuffle Elixir and every card that's in your graveyard back in. This is going to be a good way to protect our graveyard and continually cast whatever we want every single turn. Now we have Expedition Map. This is only here to grab very specific lands that'll help produce the most amount of mana possible. Now we need to protect Maha, so we have Swiftfoot Boots. A quick creature will have Hexproof and Haste. Now we have Nile Spellbomb to help us deal with our opponent's graveyard in case they're in some kind of reanimator strategy. We can exile all cards from target player's graveyard, and if we pay to black, we can draw a card. Now we have Decimator Web. We can pay 4, target opponent will lose 2 life, get a poison counter, and then mill 6 cards. Now we have Gauntlet of Power. When it enters the battlefield, we choose the color. We're going to choose black. Creatures of the chosen color will get +1/+1, and then anytime a basic land is tapped for mana of the chosen color, it'll add a additional of that color. Okay, let's get into the land base. First up is the iconic Urborg. This is going to make sure every single land is a swamp no matter what, because we're going to capitalize on having swamps or using swamp. Of course, it pairs very nicely with Cabal Coffers. You're going to pay 2 colorless and add 1 black mana for each swamp we control. Now, to deal with our opponent's graveyard, we have Bojuka Bog. It'll enter the battlefield tapped, and then when it does enter, you're going to exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Now, we have a couple fetch lands. So we have Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and Myriad Landscape. Myriad Landscape is a little bit better because you get to search for 2 of those basics instead of 1. Now we have Ash Barrens. This is basic land cycling, so if it's in your hand, you can pay a colorless, discard it, and then search for a basic land. Or you can have it on the battlefield and tap for a colorless if you need to. Now we got some cycling lands. So we have Barren Moor and Polluted Mire. You discard it to draw a card if you don't need a land. Now we have Ghost Quarter. This is going to deal with very problematic lands our opponents might play. So why not just destroy it? And we have 25 swamps. And that was the Commander deck for Maha, It's Feathers Night. I really hope you guys enjoyed this mono black control build. If you guys have any suggestions on what we could run to kind of fine tune it, I did have a couple suggestions because we are drawing lots of cards. Maybe Orcish Bowmasters or Shieldred the Apocalypse would be really good. But there's so many different variants of mono black, and there's so many different directions you can go. But with Maha, she's pretty much the best option to really deal with your opponent's creatures, no matter what they are. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.